So here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk about, as you know, it's going to be about target marketing, riches in your niches. We're going to talk about the benefits of a clear target market. We're going to talk about the characteristics of a viable target market. Some of you probably already have a market. We're going to make sure you're in a good one, and we're going to help you be more successful. I'm going to give you a lot of very specific examples of lucrative markets that advisors are using right now today to be very successful in this business. We're going to talk a little bit about producing results, creating a reputation in a market. Much easier to create a reputation for yourself when you have a very clear market. And then I have a little bonus section. We're going to get into productive center of influence relationships. Not exactly directly related to the topic, but semi-related. So I just want to give you a bonus. It doesn't. I don't have enough material to do a full webinar on COI relationships, but I wanted to give you that content here. So don't forget, if you have a question or a comment, anything occurs to you one way or another, can't hear something, whatever, put it in the Q&A. I'm monitoring that. I will see that as we go forward. So what we know, and I've covered this in past webinars, and the studies keep coming out for the last 30 years. The studies have pretty much been the same. The way people want to meet you is through some sort of a human to human connection, referral, an event, networking, recommendation, you name it. So I've developed what I call the 3 R's of relationship marketing. And the first one is relevance. We've got to have relevant messaging. If our messaging isn't relevant, we will not attract the right people. People will ignore us. People will, ghost us, etc. So we've got to have the right relevant messaging. When we create a reputation in a specific market, which is what we're really going to focus on mostly today, all of this, every stuff gets easier. Actually, we're going to focus on this a little bit. When you know your who, when you know who you're trying to reach between relevance and reputation, everything gets easier. And then, of course, referrals get easier as well. So the neat things about these three strategies, if you will, is they talk to each other, they communicate with each other. If you get referred or introduced to someone, your messaging is going to be more relevant. If you develop a reputation in a target market, your messaging is going to be more relevant and it's going to be easier to get referrals. You can use the referral process to find your target market. So all of these talk to each other and working together create exponential growth. And like I said, today's most going to be about the reputation. By the way, I have just decided to lower the price on my book, The Language of Referrals. So if you don't have it yet and you have access to a Kindle, or you can do Kindle on your laptop, I don't even know if it costs anything. It's only $2.99. I will show you the slide a few more times if you want to do the QR code thing. I will show the slide again, or if you just go to languageofreferrals-kindle.com, it'll take you to the page on Amazon where you can get the Kindle of this book for just $2.99. Quite the deal. All right. So as I mentioned, the who. We got to get clear on the who. When we get clear on the who, everything kind of falls into place. A lot of people talk about the why we do what we do, being clear on our mission and the why, and that is important. That can be very helpful. And there's not enough focus on the who we're trying to serve, because when we become radically relevant, when we really know the who, all the everything flows totally into place. So benefits of a target market. Seven main ones. First of all, you know their world better, and when you know their world better, you become a better advisor. You bring better solutions. You even know problems that they may anticipate. They may not even anticipate that you can help them with. Right. So you become better at what you do when you have a clear target market. Second of all, as I mentioned already, your messaging is going to be more relevant, because rather than trying to create messaging that attracts a wide net of people, you're now creating messaging that's going to be much more narrow and relevant to them. Here's the key in our messaging. The key word here is empathy. People need to see themselves in your messaging. You want to make sure your messaging is using a lot of you and your, and a little less we and I and our. And then you're talking about what you do in a way that's clear. And when you have a clear target market, and I'll give you a ton of examples in a few minutes, then the messaging is going to be empathetic. They're going to see themselves in the message. It's easier to identify folks, right? If the whole world's your market, nobody's your market. And a lot of folks think that you should wait in this business to find a target market. There's one large firm of a lot of advisors that it coaches their newer folks to wait a year or more to find the target. I think that's a mistake, personally. If anyone on this call is on the newer side, it's much easier when you have a very clear target market. Now, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket necessarily. You want to make sure it's a viable market, kind of a proof of concept. But you can identify people and your messaging is more relevant, right? It's a perfect match. If you decide to play around in LinkedIn, I often refer to as the new cold calling. And I like to say the only people making money with LinkedIn are the people trying to teach us how to make money with LinkedIn. But there are exceptions, and I have run across some advisors doing very well with LinkedIn. And to a person, they all have a very clear target market. So if you want to try to make LinkedIn work for you, boy, you're in the right place because you got to have a clear target market because your messaging is going to be more relevant, right? You can join forces with other centers of influence who are also focusing on that target market. Jason is a financial advisor in Toronto, Canada. His target market is dentists. And he ran and just doing some networking. He ran into a CPA, and their firm focuses on at least one of their vertical markets is dentists. And now they bring him in on a monthly basis to do educational events for their dentists. And he always gets new clients when he does that. I mean, that's marketing you can't pay for, and he doesn't have to pay for it, and gets a good meal out of the deal too. So you look for other centers of influence focusing on the market. Uh, One thing that COVID taught us is that we can expand the geographic reach. And in a few minutes, I'm going to give you some very specific examples of advisors who have done that, have created actually national reputations for themselves. Um, and by having a target market. And so you can expand the geographic reach. And finally, as I've already alluded to and mentioned, you create a reputation. It's hard to create a reputation for yourself in this business when you have kind of a shotgun approach to marketing. But when you have a clear target market, it's much easier because they know people like themselves. There's more empathy in your messaging. I'll give you one example. One of my coaching clients, John, out of Michigan. Sorry, not Michigan, Connecticut. I don't know what I was thinking. When we started working together, he just announced to his a few clients in this one particular company that he was going to dedicate a lot of his energy, and he just loved working with people who worked in that firm in that company, and the referrals just started happening naturally, right? Because they knew who to send them to, they knew who to refer them to, and they knew that he knew their world. So Joseph, I see your question. We will get to some questions. I promise we'll get to those. Just hang in with me there. So everything gets easier, right? Here's some work from Horse's Mouth. I write a regular column for Horse's Mouth, and you can see the advisors that have a target market, a niche versus a generalist. The folks who do the best in this industry, generally speaking, there's always exceptions, but generally speaking, have a very clear target market. Now, niche versus target market. It's really semantics. I mean, it really is. I like to use target market because I come from the world of direct marketing and I understand what a target market is, but it's really semantics. Now, I'll tell you what isn't a target market. Folks that are 5 to 7 years from retirement. That's a category. That is not a target market because there's no association of folks that are 5 to 7 years out of retirement. Now, if you're focusing on employees within a specific company or an industry who are 5 to 7 years from retirement, now that's a very powerful combination of category and target market. And one thing that Horse's Mouth found that niche advisors or target market advisors, they're happier with their business. I can't tell you how many times, and you're going to see this in some of the slides coming up, how many advisors that I've interviewed and coached have said they wish they had done this 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They're happier. Everything gets easier in their business, especially when it comes to client acquisition. So if you just joined us, yes, we are recording. Yes, you will get the slides. I will send the slides along with the recording. Feel free to share that with any of your colleagues, anyone else in your firm. We also have some guides that'll be coming up. You'll be getting those as well. So you're going to get a whole lot of stuff. All right, so let's answer Joseph's question real quick. Joseph says, how exactly does the target market, or how exact does the target market need to be? Sorry. Like only periodontists who have 5 to 10 employees in a certain zip code. Well, that's pretty that's pretty specific. Uh, Part of it is it's got to be large enough, right? So if you take periodontists in a zip code with only 5 to 10 employees, that's probably not going to be large enough for you. But if it was just periodontists, yeah, that could be a great one, or it could be just in the dental profession is not bad, especially with employees of a certain size. So generally speaking, Joseph, yes, the narrower, the more targeted, the better. And I'm going to give some criteria in a minute that I think is going to help with this as well. Um, the big mistake that people make is that when they're thinking about their messaging and building their website and who they're going to work with, they go, well, I don't want to leave these people out. I want to leave these people out. And what happens is their messaging gets watered down. It's no longer as effective. So let's talk just for a second a little bit about what makes you different in this industry. That's a big thing, right? Let me tell you what doesn't make you different. All right, the fact that you care about your clients, the fact that you provide great service and you get to know your clients and provide customized solutions and comprehensive plans. I'm sorry, but that's table stakes, right? Everyone is saying that. I remember doing a live presentation just a month ago. I said, how many of you, when you're talking about your differentiation, you talk about how much you get to know your clients and provide customized solutions? And about 80% of the hands went up. So guess what? That's not a differentiator. I'm not saying it's not important. All those things are important. They really are. And you do want to talk about them, but they're not differentiators. So what are sources of differentiators? Well, the clearest, easiest source of differentiation can be your target market. Now, there's other things. You could have a special expertise. You could have certification and credentials, and sometimes those go hand in hand with your target market, right? Because if you're a exit specialist for small business owners, that could go hand in hand with a target of small business owners. So there's certain certifications that go hand in hand. But I'm telling you that having a clear target market is one of the biggest differentiators. It's a difference that makes a difference. In my book, Radical Relevance, I have the 17 rules of radical relevance. And one of the rules is only differences that matter. And so you want to make sure when you're focusing on what makes you different, it's something that really makes a difference to your prospects and clients, and not everyone else is saying. If everyone else is saying it, it's a platitude. But if only a few can say it or not as many are saying it, then it starts to become a difference, right? And if you're not sure what makes you different, one of the best things you can do is talk to your clients. Your clients are great sources of how to talk about your value and how to talk about your differentiation. Ask them, and you'll get a lot of good stuff on that. I was coaching a couple of guys out on the West Coast. Dean and Pat were the two advisors. And I had them do this exercise of talking to their clients about differentiation and their value. And I'll never forget the story. They told me they were in front of a client and they said, can you talk to about what you see makes us a little different? How would you describe us to other folks? Great exercise to do, by the way. And this guy said, oh, I call you my dream makers. And they go, what do you mean by that? Well, not only have you learned what my dreams and goals are, but you're making sure I'm getting there. You're making sure those dreams and goals are funded. Money's being set aside. You're helping me manage my cash flow. You're connecting me with resources that are related to those dreams, those bucket list items, right? So you are my difference makers. My dream makers is what he called them. And they looked at each other and goes, that's it. That's our differentiator, right? Not only do we get to learn about those things, but we stay with you. And very few advisors stay with their clients when it comes to those dreams and goals. The plan gets shoved in a drawer on a shelf somewhere. Just I see a question, we'll get there. All right, so we talked about the benefits of a market. We talked about a little bit the characteristics of a viable market. Let's look at the questions here. Bill, Oh, characteristics. Another characteristic, by the way, it's got to be large enough. They also need to have the financial capacity to take advantage of what you want to do, right? That's an important one. And the other thing that's very important is that they have formal and informal ways of communicating with each other. Right? The best kind of target markets, they have formal, informal ways of communicating. They have trade associations. They have a literal or a virtual water cooler. Coaching one client right now in Alaska. He's got two target markets. One is first responders, and the other is folks who work on the pipeline, the Alaskan pipeline. And what's great about those markets is not only, do they congregate, but there's camaraderie. And when there's camaraderie at play, that makes a very powerful target market because when they recommend you, they trust each other. They've learned to trust each other. Like folks in the military where they work close together, you get that deep bond of trust, and that camaraderie can really help a lot. So Joseph, what did he say? He said, Bill, appreciate what you do. My experience with centers of influence is they're almost always working with someone already, and when they do engage, they string me along trying to get referrals from me. Let me hold off on that one, Joseph, because we're going to get the centers of influence. But thank you for that. We will get there, I promise. All right, don't forget, for those of you who just arrived a little late, got new pricing on my Kindle. The Language of Referrals, only $2.99. I mean, the book itself is only $14.95. But if you want to get it and save a little money, just go to languageofreferrals-kindle.com. All right. So my slides are out of order. So large enough, financial capacity, stable or growing is important, right? That it's stable and growing industry or business, unless it's really large and you can stay with it as it flattens out a little bit. Uh, it helps that you really enjoy working with the people. You like the work they do, or you like the types of people who are drawn to that type of business. That's helpful. Looking for a network of centers of influence. Are there CPAs? Are there attorneys? Are there business consultants? Are there other types of financial professionals that don't conflict with what you do? Look for that network of centers of influence. I talked to you about that sense of community and camaraderie. And then again, they have those formal and informal ways of communication. And you're going to see how all this plays out as I share with you very specific examples. Nelson, I see your question. We'll get there in a minute, I promise. A couple of more free stuff for you guys. I'm going to send these to you. These are based on my book, Radical Relevance. And I just want to let you know I'll be sending this guide to you with the slides, with the recording. One is around reputation marketing. The other is a website. And if you're thinking about tweaking or fine tuning or building a website, you want to take into account a lot of things we're talking about here today. So I want you to have that information sooner than later. All right. So types of viable target markets. Now we're going to get to nitty gritty examples, lots of examples that hopefully you'll find inspiring. All right, so employees in a large company, pretty typical in this industry. You see a lot. Let me give you examples. Don Hilario. Don Hilario works with Google employees. Do you know what Google employees call themselves? I just had a Google employee move into the house next to me about a year ago. They call themselves Googlers. And there's all kinds of jargon and things they call meetings and all kinds of stuff that are very specific to Google employees. And so he uses that, and they see that he knows their world, that empathy. He says, building a reputation among Googlers. People come in saying, I've heard great things about you. You're highly recommended. I know you work with people like me, right? That's the power of a target market. He has a big guide that he puts out to the big tech folks. So he's got content marketing that he drips on these folks. It gives you validation, credibility, and trust. I'll give you another one. Craig Camille. Not Craig Camille, sorry, Jeremy Kyle. Jeremy Kyle built a reputation in Harley Davidson. So what happens? He wrote a blog post around the benefits of the Harley Davidson benefit package, and that went viral within Harley Davidson. So this is the blog that he wrote. You can see the table of contents, the six things that he talks about in that blog post. But when that came out, those employees when Harley Davidson's, that's how they introduced him. And here's an important thing for you to know around the referral and introduction process. While there are many clients who will just introduce you, they love to just introduce you to someone. They'll text or email or in person or whatever. There's a lot of other of your clients would like to have kind of an interim step. They like to have a tool to use to introduce you. And that's what happened with Jeremy here is he had this blog post and people are using that as a way to introduce him to folks in Harley Davidson in Milwaukee. So huge for him. Um, Dennis Dennis O'Keefe, target market, Verizon employees. He also has a category, which is employees that are 5 to 7 years from retirement. He helps them navigate into a successful retirement. And so he's got a category and a powerful target market. It shows up in everything does. So there was a time, he's in Fall River, Massachusetts. And so on the East Coast, it was Ma Bell, Mother Bell, Bell Atlantic, Bell Telephone, then it became Bell Atlantic, and then something else, and eventually Verizon, right? That was the genesis of Verizon. And so the older employees, the folks that are close to retirement, they call themselves phone people. No one who's younger in Verizon thinks of Verizon as just a telephone company anymore, but the older folks do, and his target market does. So I help him actually find this visual for his website. Um, so employees in a large company, huge, very effective. Businesses within a specific industry. And per the previous question, generally speaking, the narrower the better. So let me give you some very specifics. This guy, Todd McDonald, he's like the poster child, as far as I'm concerned, of uh, companies, employers within a specific industry. His is heavy construction. So here's what happened. Early in his career, he asked some of the top folks in his company, if you were to start over, if you were to do it differently, what would you do differently? And almost to a person, they say, well, I'd stop trying to be all things to all people, or I'd focus on a target market. So he took that to heart. And when he was in college, he did a lot of lawn mowing as a side business. He did a lot of resurfacing of driveways, which is pretty common for folks who do landscape and mowing. And so he went into construction and contractors. And then he slowly grew it to a kind of a very high level. And so it kind of looks like a little like this, right? So he could have wealthy individuals. All right, it's too scattered, too broad, not a target market. Business owners, better, right? A little bit better if you focus on business owners, but then business owners in an industry, and his is family owned, closely held, heavy construction, right? If you go to Todd McDonald's website, this is what his website looks like. This is not your standard typical financial advisor website. I don't know about you, but I kind of miss the retired couple walking hand in hand on the beach clip art that most advisors use on their website. If you're if you're in a family-owned, heavy construction, closely held, and you go to his website, you go, all right, this is the guy, right? This guy gets us. He goes on the job site. He's got, hard hats. Every page on his website says, "I work with you. I know who you are, and I work with you." He even belongs to some of the industry associations. He is of them. And he is hugely successful, my friends, hugely successful. So let me tell you just a little bit about a recent interview on my podcast, by the way, Julie Carlson. Um, you know, a lot of people aspire to do seven-figure businesses. Well, she's done an eight-figure business, right? And she's done it focusing on small business owners. But what she does is not only does she help small business owners with their financial planning, the individual business owner, and she also knows the inextricable link between the business owner's finance and the business's finance, even if it's a corporation. In the business owner's head, it's still almost the same thing. But she also has developed a whole consulting side of her business where he helps these businesses grow and she helps these business owners run better businesses. And so that's how she's gotten to an eight-figure practice, not a seven, but an eight-figure practice. This is on her website. This is one of the ways she illustrates. As I mentioned, she's got this arm to her business, ongoing coaching and consulting to help these business owners run a better business. And eventually, a lot of these owners sell. And then not only has she done very well with them before they sold, but once they've sold, she captures the assets after that. Um, Camille Davis, I just actually had dinner with Camille a few weeks ago on Long Island. Family-owned restaurants was her target market when she first got started in this business. And she frames this is particularly a good information if you're a little newer in this business, going after the whole family. I developed a program called the Whole Family Experience. And the thing with small family-owned restaurants is there's a lot of family members, right? Aunts, uncles, everything, right? And so her work just spreads like wildfire. Did very, very, very well, very quickly. I love her motto, by the way. Um, you know, in the military they say no soldier, no airman, no sailor, no Marine left behind. Hers is no family member left behind. And that's how she frames her business. Has done very, very well by framing her business. I'm here to take care of you, and I'm also here to take care of your family members, other people you care about. Very powerful, very powerful. All right, so we talk about business owners, we talk about employees in a large market, medical practices, medical professionals. Um, Johannes Harrison, great podcast interview, by the way, episode number 73. All these are free. So if you like to listen to podcasts, just go topadvisorpodcast.com. Emergency room physicians, right? That's his target market. Emergency room physicians. He has a national reputation. Uh, One thing he said to me is, I wish I had done this 10 years ago. Now, he also has a podcast, Becoming an Attending. That's an attending physician. If you haven't seen the HBO Max series, The Pit, uh, if you've seen it, you know what it means by the attending physician. And so that's his target market. And so now he has a podcast. And so in everything he says and does, you can see he's saying, I know you. I understand your world, right? And they're thinking, you get me. You understand my world. And so everything is more relevant, everything is more effective, everything is more powerful. And he works a lot on financial literacy for these doctors. They're very smart, and they think they can do all the financial stuff themselves. And he has little quizzes he puts them through, and they realize they don't have the financial literacy they thought they did, and they love working with him because he's very straight with them, very direct with them. Uh, Adam Schmala, one of my first interviews, episode number 3 of my podcast, optometrist. Let me give you his journey a little bit. So as I kind of did with Tom McDonald, all right, he could go after wealthy individuals. Not a target market. Sorry. White coat professionals is what he initially identified. Doctors, dentists, pharmacists, and optometrists were the 4 white coat professionals. But then he realized in his target market efforts, he was actually trying to go after 4 different niches. It was almost like 4 different businesses. And so he finally decided on optometrists, and he went even narrower than that. Right, the question earlier about periodontists in a zip code with 5 to 10 employees. He went to optometrists who want to sell their business in 5 years. National reputation. He had a national reputation. He was doing Zoom meetings before COVID. Many of his clients he had never met in person. It didn't matter because he knew their world and they saw that he knew their world. I get you, you get me. That's what target market's all about. Um, He's got a report for these folks. It's part of his marketing. He's got when I interviewed him, this was several years ago. He said, my only regret was not doing this 5 years ago. And that's probably not like 8 years ago. He also has a podcast. Again, if you're thinking about podcasts, some advisors like to do podcasts. The ones that I've seen who are the most successful with their podcasts are the ones who have a very clear target market, like Johannes Harrison, like Adam Schmala. Hospital execs, nurses. Michael focused on nurses initially, but mostly nurses in hospitals. And so then it was a natural extension to do hospital administrators. So now it's nurses who work in large hospitals in his area and the hospital administrators. And you can see he's written a couple books on for nurses. And he knows their world. They see that he knows their world. Everything gets easier. Episode 69. I think this is the last one on this one is man, I'm telling you, this guy has done an incredible job in the dental industry, and everything he does is focusing. Look at his website: financial planning for dentists to enjoy a rich life. Right? Everything he does is for dentists. He's got a podcast again, the Dentist Money Show. He's got a summit where dentists come together, right? Talk about a community that he's built. It's no wonder he's been so darn successful, multi-billion dollar in assets. Um, he says specialization is the future. He said this actually a couple years ago, right? So that's why you're here, right? I already did Michael. Sorry, Michael. Where am I going the right direction? Yeah. All right. Colleges and universities. Um, Not a bad market. You get to know their world. You get to know their benefits package. You become a better advisor. Affinity groups, families with children with special needs, women business owners is more of an affinity group, but there are gatherings of women business owners, right? So there's that place to create that reputation. Philanthropists, athletes. Let me give you a couple examples there. Walter Stith. I actually just saw a Facebook post from Walter this morning. It turns out he does a little stand-up comedy. I didn't know that, but he's an ex-NFL lineman, and he was what was the was it the left tackle that protects the blind side of the quarterback, right? So he was with the Lions. He played in Canada for a couple years. Yeah, offensive tackle, right? He protected the quarterback's blind side. Now he protects his client's financial blind side. So he plays up his athletic experience, his pro experience, and uses it with some fun with his clients, and has done very well in this business. And then finally, this is a great story, Jeff Chaddock. So Jeff Chaddock started out with schools and universities, started out in the 403B market. And then he started becoming more successful. So then he started doing some philanthropic work. He helped renovate a building. And so he got to know some philanthropists and he goes, ooh, this is where the money is. Uh, so he and his team, they have 4.5 billion of assets under management by focusing on philanthropists. So his clients are philanthropists or clients who are well-to-do who want to get engaged in philanthropy, and he takes a leadership role in them. He helps them with that, from not just from a financial planning standpoint, but also to kind of help them figure out where they might want to get engaged with philanthropy. So, man, you want to go where the money is. You want to target market where the money is. Philanthropists, without question. Richmond, women. Yes, male advisors can have a lot of success focusing on women. There's a lot of women that focus on women as well. Um, and he's done very well focusing on women. And he was a dance instructor at one point. So he kind of he gets that. He does appreciation events where there's dance involved. So whenever you as an advisor can bring any special talent that you might have, whether you're, a great cook or a great golfer or fishing or dancing or yoga or whatever it is, right? If you can bring that passion of yours into your practice, man, that's a very powerful thing and really extends the big business friendships. Um, and then Chad Hufford, he's the gentleman I was telling you about. Um, he gets a ton of unsolicited referrals because of the oil field workers and the first responders. So, just a little plug for the my podcast. It's free. We got 108 interviews. I think 109 is coming out this Thursday. All free. Just go to topadvisorpodcast.com, subscribe so you don't miss any. We're ranked in the top 3% of podcasts worldwide. Kind of cool. Great. I call that my relevance laboratory. By interviewing all these successful advisors, I become better at what I do through that. And I bring that into my coaching programs as well. So one of the fears, concerns, questions that come up, and then I'll get to some questions here in the Q&A. To target or not to target, right? Here are the fears, the concerns. What about my current clients? Will I leave them behind? No, nobody says you have to leave them behind. In fact, some of those people can actually introduce you to people in the target market. So let me give you an example. Daniel Johnson, he's got a very specific target market. His is physicians who are about to or just recently sold their practice to a larger practice or venture capitalist firm, and now they've become employees. So their financial situation has changed, and also they have more free time. And so he helps them with their financial transition and doing better there now that they're employees, but he also helps them with the free time. He helps them, he inspires them of other things they can do now with their free time. So he builds he's got a value connection with them, he's got a personal connection with them. And he let all his clients know. He says, look, you will see on my website, you will see some verbiage. This is a group of folks that I love working with. I'm not abandoning you. Don't worry, still work with you. And if you know any folks like this, then I can help them as well. The other one is the missed opportunities. It's kind of like if I just focus on this group, will I miss all this opportunity over here? And the answer is, yeah, you might. You probably will. But you're going to be so successful in your target market, you won't even notice. You won't even notice. Notice, Johannes Harrison said, I wish I had done this 10 years ago. Adam Schmale said, I wish I'd done this 5 years ago. It's not something you have to worry about. All right, so far we've covered the benefits of a clear market, characteristics, types of markets. We're going to talk about a little bit about producing results in the market. Then we're going to get into centers of influence. That's all coming. Let me take a few questions here. Nelson, Bill, do you recommend your recommendation to reach the target market? Should we promote through social media, gain clients, or promoting through my database? Yeah, all of the above. The easiest, best way, Nelson, as you might imagine, is through whatever relationships you have in place, right? So it really only takes about one or two clients to start to get to know that world a little bit better. One thing you can also do, and I did this early in my career, before I was focusing on financial services, I had owned and sold a couple of uh, book publishing companies. So I knew the printing industry, and my target market was the printing industry for a while. And I did a lot of informational interviews. I just took people out to lunch and learned about their world. So use your database, use your clients. Not necessarily to prospect right away. It could be just to do informational breakfasts, lunch, whatever. Get to know their world a little bit better. And then some of those folks may very well become clients once they get to know you and learn about you. Um, so yeah, all of the above, really. But it's, what you'll find is you can use the referral process immediately, and you should. And the more they see that you're focusing on people like them, really, the less the social media stuff really will need to be there. You can use social media to complement that, though, however, can't you? Because of the content that you create will be specific to them. If you decide to play around with LinkedIn a little bit, the content will be specific to them. Um, Joe said, heard your podcast with this guy a while back. Thank you. Great listen. Nelson said, thank you. Happy birthday. All right. Any opinion on targeting those with equity compensation? Oh, I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think it's usually necessary, Ken. I don't know your business model really, so it's kind of hard to. If you want to shoot me an email, we can have a little exchange a little bit more around that. Um, so it's going to depend a little bit about your practice and who your target market is. So that's kind of very specific. Shoot me an email. We can talk about that. All right. So Joseph G, since we're going to get into COIs in a minute, let me look at your question here. My experience with COIs, all right, they're mostly looking for someone already, working with someone. Yes, sometimes they are. This is where the target market is very helpful because you focus on these types of people, right? And there are some target markets where CPAs and in other cases, a little lesser, maybe attorneys, depending on the type of market and the attorney, where that's the way in. Sometimes these COIs are the way in to your target market. But when you have a very clear specialty, and if I might add, if you have a process, if there's a way you go about your work, your credentials, and the process you bring to play within your target market is different than what other advisors do, then you're now differentiating yourself. Another way to differentiate yourself and stay in touch with these folks, it takes a long time to build trust for these folks. We're going to get to that in a minute. And so sometimes a lot of advisors don't stick with it long enough to earn the trust. And so, yeah, they're working with someone when they met you, but as they get to know you over time and over time and over time, and they see your specialty, then some start to trickle over. Not always. We'll talk about that in a minute. Um, yeah, and you're right. Some are only interested in your referrals to them, and if you can create a reciprocal referral relationship, great. Here's the neat thing: is there's a lot of folks, a lot of attorneys, accountants, stuff. They don't always necessarily care about the reciprocal referral relationships. They just want someone who's good. There was an advisor in Augusta, Maine, and I've lost his name. He's recently sold his practice. He had like 35 CPAs feeding him with a continual flow of high quality clients because they just loved the work he did for the clients and they didn't expect referrals back. All right, so let me get the so we're going to get to COIs a little bit more, and I need you to give me 2 minutes. Please stay with me for 2 minutes because I got a couple of special things here I want to let you know about, and then we're going to get into a lot of content. I promise. I've got an academy. I've had it for a little while, and we've got a little deal going here. So, course one talks about how you communicate your value, being clearer, more organized, more effective with your value communication. Course two is how to become more referable. And one way to do that is having a clear target market, but there's other things you can do as well. Being appropriately proactive so you don't look like the creepy referral guy. How can you be appropriately proactive for referrals and introductions? And then, indeed, creating the introduction. This is where it gets stuck for a lot of people, where they have people willing to talk about you, or maybe they say they're going to talk about you to someone else, but the introduction doesn't get made, and that's a shame. So we want to make sure we cover that. So we've just for a limited time through the first part of the summer, we've really cut the price in half. So you can save $500 on this. So you can see what in half would be then, right? Do the numbers. So the site's already built in with the discount. So if you go to thekatesacademy.com and you decide to get the academy, this reduction is already built in to the shopping cart. If it's not, tell me, but I should be there. A lot of folks hire me to do some coaching. I'm not the kind of coach who does long, extended coaching. I see myself as like the batting coach. If you want to focus on referrals and introductions and value prop communication for like 2, 3, 4 months, man, I am your guy. We can really transform how you think about your value, how you communicate your value, how you think about referrals and introductions, how you get referrals, and then you'll be transformed and we'll let you go. We'll stay in touch. You get access to the academy. Academy's part of this, always part of the coaching. So we have different packages. I don't want to belabor the point here. You'll get the slides, but we have a package where we just talk about value prop, or we can just talk about referrals and introductions. Just signed up a gentleman this morning because he's got his value prop down very well. We didn't need to work on that. We just need to work on this. And then reputation marketing. And some people get the whole kitchen sink, everything I can possibly bring. That takes a little bit longer of a coaching thing, but we're going to it's all geared towards results. If you go to the website, you can see what I teach works. I say it with confidence and humility. If you want to focus on having a clearer and more effective way to talk about your value, if you want to be able to get referrals without asking and have an appropriate way to be appropriately proactive, then check out CoachCates.com. All right. All right. So that was my 2 minutes. Thank you for indulging. By the way, I am not doing the chat. So if you have anything you want to say to me, put it in the Q&A. I can't track the chat while I'm doing this by myself. You can already see I'm stumbling a little bit through the slides. Well, this is what, live TV, live webinars. All right. So here are a few things to think about. Producing results. I mentioned this already. Conducting informational interviews with your clients, with other people you know that may already be in the market. You may have some clients who have a sibling, a friend, a sorority, fraternity, brother, sister, and they'll grant you a breakfast, they'll grant you a lunch as a favor to their friend to learn about the target market you're thinking of going. So that's the first thing to do is those informational interviews and really get to know that world. Uh, Test the waters a little bit. Don't put all your eggs into one basket. Make sure you get a proof of concept. Make sure it seems to be working. Don't abandon whatever else you've been doing. And you never really have to abandon what you've already been doing. You can just add this to the mix. Uh, then you position yourself as a specialist. Who makes the most money in our society, generally speaking? Generalists or specialists? Well, it's specialists. And we've already talked about why, right? Because you are better at what you do. And people see you as being better at what you do. So it's a perfect combination. Not only do they see you better, but you actually are better. And then you start to work on your messaging, right? Um, how you talk about your messaging, your website, your LinkedIn profile, all of this starts to show who you are and who you focus. I found a lot of advisors I've either coached or interviewed or just run into from time to time who have a target market, but their messaging isn't coherent and doesn't show that. The visuals that they use on their LinkedIn profile doesn't show. The one guy I was coaching, he's in San Diego. His LinkedIn, he focuses on business owners who want to exit their business, but his LinkedIn profile photo was the San Diego coast. All right, well, it shows that he's in San Diego. Okay, that's not terrible, but you want to make sure everything matches, everything is congruent, so they get you, they see that you get them. And then, as I mentioned earlier, like Daniel does, let your clients know that this is a focus, this is something you're going to be doing. You're not abandoning them, you're not leaving them behind. And many of these people will know people who are in your target market, and they become a source of clients for you. Uh, Find out who the influencers are. Um, every target market, every industry, every group like this, they all have influencers. These are sometimes the most successful members of that community, some and the most senior sometimes. Sometimes they're the president of the association or on the board of directors, right? I'm in an association called the National Speakers Association. I'm one of the founding members of the $1 Million Speakers Group. It's folks like me who do $1 million or more in annual revenue, and I'm considered an influencer in that particular association, right? So you want to go after folks like that. Find a way to serve those people. Find a way to be of value to them. Help them get to know who you are, and they will help you be successful in their market. Um, so Jay, hey Jay, man, you are a regular, Jay. You're on most of my webinars, and I appreciate you a lot. What are your thoughts, Portland, right? If I'm remembering correctly, I hope I got that right. On asking business owner for an introduction to competitors in the same industry. Happy birthday. Thank you, Jay. Yes. From the outside, a lot of times we think businesses compete with each other, but most of these business owners know each other, and they're not often competitors or they're friendly competitors. So, for instance, when I was focused on the printing industry, as I mentioned years ago, a lot of those printers, they're members of the association, right? Business owners are a member of association of their members, right? They're at meetings with their competitors. And sometimes what looks to be the same kind of business isn't necessarily the same. With these printers, they would help each other with jobs they couldn't print, or if they were at capacity, they'd farm it out to another printer. So yeah, most business owners, not all, but most business owners have an abundant mindset, and they may say, "Look, I'd prefer you don't talk to this person, but I'm happy to introduce you to these people." Right? So yeah, I would not let that stop you. Every now and then you may run into somebody who doesn't want to introduce you to competitors or a specific competitor, but it's not a game stopper by any stretch. Of course, you want to ask for introductions, right? You want to use the methodologies I teach. It gets easier when in target market. You can collaborate with other centers of influence, like I mentioned, Jason in Toronto does with the CPA firm. Look for speaking opportunities. And this is in the referral process, just in general. When you're looking for referrals, introductions, don't forget opportunities to present, to make presentations to groups, right? Nothing better than being an expert in front of a group of potential prospects. Um, Write articles, guides, checklists. Like remember, Jeremy Kyle wrote that blog post around the benefits package for Harley Davidson, and phew, man, his business took off like wildfire. It's crazy. Uh, Consider a podcast. Podcasts aren't for everybody. And a lot of folks are doing a lot of video podcasts these days. I'm putting my podcast on video these days. So if you have a face for radio, maybe just don't do the video part. All right. All right, so that's that. Target market. I hope you're finding this helpful. Let's shift and let's get into centers of influence. Don't have a lot of time left, but it won't take a lot of time to get through this. So, who are the trusted advisors? Who are the types of people that you should look at? Well, certainly accountants and tax prep people, attorneys, but not just estate planning attorneys. Divorce, M&A, there's money in motion there, my friends. Personal injury, money in motion. Even general practice. I got an example, I think, of a gentleman who gets a lot of referrals from general practice attorneys. So estate planning attorneys aren't always the best sources, but a lot of other types of attorneys can be great sources. And they're not being inundated by advisors for those. P&C agents, in some cases, certain P&C agents can be great sources. Mortgage professionals, a lot of times. Business consultants, right? So there's a lot of folks out there who can be great centers of influence for you. Um, so Bryce, this is actually the gentleman I talked about. He does a lot of he helps business owners a lot, and uh, he has a couple of general practice attorneys that send him a lot of referrals. And they used to, give out three names. Many of you have seen this, right? They won't give out just your name. They'll give out three advisors. That's just the way attorneys seem to work. Um, but over time, eventually they said, why am I bothering with these other guys? You're the guy, Bryce. You're our guy, right? And so over time, he built a stronger relationship. I just interviewed Stephen recently. Now he has found an unusual estate planning attorney who this guy got licensed because he believed in insurance, he believed in protection products, he believed in proper financial planning, but he didn't really want to do the work. He wouldn't mind getting compensated. So he got licensed. But here's what's happened. This guy gets it, and he sets up great introductions. They're in the attorney's office, so that's where Stephen meets these folks, which is the best way to meet these folks, is in the office of the center of influence. But he doesn't want to have to do disclosure. He doesn't want to tell his clients that he gets compensated for this. So Stephen gets all the money anyway. So that's out there. That's possible. You just got to nurture these relationships. So the biggest mistake that people make with house plants is right overwatering people. Sorry, underwatering people underwater their house plants and it kills them. The number two killer of house plants, overwatering. It's a balance, isn't it? Same thing with CPAs and attorneys, right? This is a long game. This is something that takes 6, 9, 12 months to earn the trust of these CPAs and attorneys and other centers of influence. This is a long game, right? You can't come on too strong and you got to stay in it long enough. Now, the best way to meet these folks is, through your clients, right? You should know your clients' other trusted advisors anyway. And their CPA, their attorney should at least know about you. They should at least know you're there and you're there to assist during tax time if there's statements missing or other things like that, right? So, and you also can use these people to meet other trusted advisors. All right, so proceed with care. Why do I say that? Because here's the biggest fear of an accountant, of a CPA, of an attorney, of anybody really who's giving referrals is they're in a protecting the relationship mode. But with CPAs and attorneys, it's even stronger. Their fear is that somehow it's going to screw up their relationship with the client. That's why it takes so long to build trust with these folks, right? Because they've got to see that they can really trust your process and trust you. So everything you do, it's all about earning trust, earning the right to these introductions. So 5 quick steps. Choose the best model. I'm going to go through each one of these quickly. Clarify your value proposition, learn about their world, become referable, and then formalize the relationship. Make sure you know how to give each other introductions and who to recognize. So what's the best model? Revenue share, that can work. Some folks do revenue share models. Nothing wrong with that. No objection to it. There's a lot of CPAs and attorneys, what did I just do? Who won't do that because they see it as a conflict. But that's a little more on the old school side. A lot of these folks are looking for revenue share. So in some states, they got to get licensed. Other states, they don't, right? Different programs. Uh, Reciprocal referrals, some will want that, but don't make this mistake of thinking they need or want a reciprocal referral relationship, right? Sometimes they just want you to be their advisor of choice. And you can work all of these levels sometimes. You could have a couple of CPAs or one CPA where it's reciprocal, and you could have another CPA where he or she doesn't care if they get referrals from you. They just want someone they can trust. So these models can blend together. A little bit about your value proposition. Make sure you are clear with the answers to these questions before you contact or sit down with any center of influence. What do you do? If I asked you, what do you do? Are you going to hum and a hum and a hum and a? Are you going to, or do you have a very clear, specific answer? This is one of the things we help with coaching is to have a very clear, succinct way to do this. Who do you do it for? Are you clear on who? Because this who is really important to these centers of influence, especially with the question that came up with they only want they're already working with someone else. Yeah, but maybe they're not working with someone quite like you in your focus, in your specialty. What makes you different? A lot of clients don't care about what makes you different. They just want to know if are you right for them, right? That's the answer to the question they have. But with these centers of influence, they do need to know what makes you different because they have other people calling on them on a regular basis, especially CPAs and estate planning attorneys. Other attorneys, not so much. So you might find that a very fruitful territory for yourselves. Uh, and then the benefits of your differentiation. I've learned over the years in working with advisors that you all are pretty good at talking about what you do, but not translating it into the actual benefit. And so the way to do that is keep asking, so what? Oh, I focus on this. Great. So what? Well, that allows me to do this. Great. So what? And then make sure you translate the features of your business into a clear benefit. Um, and then the why can be very valuable. Why you're focusing on this target market, why you're focusing on these people. That why behind you, who you are, can also be very helpful. Now, your client's why is more important than your why because that's their why, their story. And if you're trying to earn the right to have some influence over their financial situation, they want to know who you are. Who is this person looking to influence my current and future financial world? Learn about their world. Before you sit down with a CPA and attorney or any, interview your own, interview others, read industry publications, CPA practice advisor, journal of account, so you can talk to them about their industry and their world in a way that most advisors never bring. So it'll go like this, right? You could say to the, Mr. or Mrs. CPA, I'm sure you're always looking for clients that are a good match for your practice, but I've learned that a lot of firms, especially small, medium-sized firms, is one of their biggest challenges is talent acquisition, acquiring the right talent for the firm. Is that true for you? Oh yeah, that's really true. Yeah, our industry, right? So there's that empathy. You know us, you get us. So learn about these people before you try to form a relationship with them. And then now, of course, with internet, AI, but whatever you learn, by the way, by reading publications or by using, AI, don't assume it's true. Just say to that CPA or to, what I understand or what I've been told or what others have told me is this, is that true for you? Very important that you translate it, is that true for you? And they will see that you know their world, you know their industry, and then they'll tell you whether it's true for them or how their situation might be just a little bit different, right? So learn about their practice, learn about their challenges, opportunities, learn about their vision for their future, just like you would with a client, right? Focus on them and what's important to them. And how do you provide value first, right? Can you partner with some seminars for their clients? Can you feed them with relevant, compliance friendly, of course, information? Can you contribute articles to their newsletter? Can you help them with their marketing, right? What do you bring to the table that maybe they're not good at? Maybe you have a really good way of your client service plan and you have a good template and a process you follow. Maybe you can share that with them. So look to provide value first. And then eventually you can introduce them to other resources and then case studies. Case studies are huge. And I'm going to send this guide to you about how to write a quick case study. I call it the minute case study. But this is how you stay in touch with attorneys and accountants and other centers of influence through, like, maybe once a quarter. You drip a little case study. Here was the situation. Here's what we did. Here's how they feel now. Here's the result. And uh, CPAs and attorneys, particularly, they tend to be analyticals. They tend to love seeing how something, a problem is solved. So if you haven't gotten good at case studies, you will find that this is a very valuable tool, not just with clients in general, but particularly with centers of influence. Um, and then formalize the relationship. And we're almost done, by the way. So if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A. Um, is there some business chemistry? That's good to know, right? If you're talking to someone who's a jerk, move on. Um, have you become referable in their eyes, right? Do they know? Do they understand your value prop? So let me give you an example. My financial advisor, Aaron Willis, identified an estate planning attorney who went off on his own, started his own practice, and he went and he visited with this gentleman, and they spent about an hour learning about, talking about estate planning, learning about his staff and his philosophies and all that kind of stuff. And that attorney came over to Aaron's office, and Aaron gave him soup to nuts, the entire, here's our planning process, here are all the questions we ask, here's how we stay in touch with our clients. And this attorney says, Aaron, of all the advisors that have come to me over the years to trying to, earn the right to some of my clients, you're the first one who's ever laid out his full process, soup to nuts, like this, right? And then Aaron started getting a lot of referrals from this guy because of that. So you got to become referable. Teach each other how to recognize good prospects, right? They don't necessarily know all the money in motion and life event categories that can trigger someone who should know you. So teach them that. Make sure they know about all the money in motion and life event categories. Um, and then discuss how the introductions will take place. Please never assume, and you probably already know this, that a lot of the CPAs and attorneys are lousy at providing introductions. So talk to them. And look, here's the deal. Getting a good connection, getting a good introduction is not just about being good for you. It is good for you. You want to get connected, right? But think about it. If a CPA, attorney, anyone identifies someone that is a little confused about their financial situation, isn't doing proper planning, they're stressed, they're anxious, whatever it is, if they don't create a good introduction, that person is going to stay there, right? They're going to stay stuck. So getting a good connection is not just for you, it's also for the prospect. And so that's where you come from with this, with getting a good introduction. Let's talk about how you connect to me with George. Let's talk about how you introduce me to Laura, right? Because let's make sure that she feels comfortable with introduction and that we can pique her interest in talking to me so we can maybe address this issue that you see she has, right? So discuss how the introduction will take place. Critical, critical, critical question to ask, right? And then kind of get a roadmap for how often you guys are going to meet, guys, gals, right? Could be once a quarter, could be once a month, depends on the relationship. But got to stay top of mind with case studies, stay top of mind with breaking bread, and nurture these relationships over time. Bottom line, kind of in a nutshell, as we wrap up the center of influence section, is earn their trust. That's the big one. Takes time to do that. Eventually, you got to become super referable. The case studies that you drip on them will help you with that becoming referable. And then don't take anything for granted. Don't assume they know how to identify someone who can help you, and don't assume that they know how to make a good introduction. Talk through that, formalize that to make sure you get good introductions. So I'm ready to take some questions if there are any. I know we went over a few minutes. Apologize. If you're interested in the Kindle pricing, only $2.99 for the language of referrals, you can go there. Um, don't forget half price on the Kate's Academy, and a lot of folks will do a combination of a little bit of coaching for 2, 3, 4 months, and then the Academy is part of that. You get access to the Academy for a full year in addition. So I'm not seeing any questions coming up. So I will work on getting the replay to you. I will work on getting the slides to you. A couple of the guides that we talked about in here as well. We'll get those over to you as well. Feel free to share it with colleagues, other people in your firm. And by the way, I love doing virtual presentations and I love doing in-person presentations. And so if you ever have an opportunity to recommend someone to present to your group, please don't keep me a secret. All right, folks, I hope you found this helpful. And with that, we're going to sign off and I'll get the replay and everything off to you as quickly as I can. All right. You take care, everybody.